Most new hosts think you need a perfect property, a huge budget, or a lot of experience to launch an Airbnb in 2025, but the truth is you don't. And in this video, we'll walk you through the 5 steps you need to start an Airbnb that gets booked fast, earns you a steady income, and runs smoothly, even if you're just getting started. If you're new here, I'm Seth, and over the past 10 years, my partner William and I have built a portfolio of short-term rentals that now generate thousands of dollars each month. Over the past decade, we've hosted over 10,000 Airbnb guests, I've earned more than 3,000 5-star reviews, and I've grown from just one listing, a single listing making a few $100s a month. And in 2025, we are slated to break our first $1 million in revenue. And everything we're sharing in this video is what we wish we had when we were just getting started. In fact, y'all, it actually feels like I'm talking to a younger version of myself. And if you're just getting started, I hope this saves you years of trial and error and some of the costly mistakes that we made along the way. And the very first step is one we call the spark. And this is about choosing the right market and the right property. And you don't just want to follow the hype. You don't want to go where everyone else is going or go where you see folks talking about on Instagram or other social media channels. You want to use tools like Airbnb to find high demand areas with low competition. Here are 3 steps you want to follow to find both the right market as well as the right property. You want to check for demand. Look for places where Airbnbs are booked steadily and consistently. You also want to focus on markets with solid monthly revenue and high occupancy. Next, you want to check for what is called seasonality. Is it busy only a part of the year, or are they getting consistent bookings throughout the year? A great market has consistent demand across all the seasons. Next, you want to scan the competition. You want to search local listings to see how many listings are active in your market and what makes the top listings stand out. Is it like a luxury market? Is it a family market? Is it mostly condos? Do they use a particular design and a look and feel of those properties? Next, you want to look for gaps. These are potentially an area in the market that you can step in and fill where you have the least amount of competition. So for example, if you sense that there's a higher demand for family properties, but most of the listings are condos, you may look for a property that can host 10 or more guests. That is one particular consideration that helps you potentially stand out in a new market. But before we jump into step 2, I've got a tool that will help you select both the right property as well as the right market. And it's called the Airbnb Profit Map. And it shows you exactly how to pick a high profitable city. It also shows you how to spot red flags and make sure demand is strong before you spend a single dollar. And you can grab that down below by following the link. Now on to step 2. The next step in the process is one that we call the setup. Now to get 5-star reviews and consistent bookings, your Airbnb must be designed for guest experience. Not just one that looks good, but one that actually focuses on what guests need in order to make their stay comfortable and in order to help you get 5-star reviews after they've checked out. And if you're finding this video helpful, take a moment and hit the like button. It helps more new hosts find this video. And don't forget to subscribe. We drop new video strategies every week to help you launch, grow, and scale your Airbnb the smart way. So here's what you want to do. You want to focus on comfort first. You want to have solid furniture, quality beds, cozy seating, a functional layout that guests can easily navigate without bumping into all the furniture and damaging your property. Next, you want to make sure you have the right amenities that guests are looking for. These are things like a coffee station, high-speed Wi-Fi, blackout curtains. You also want to consider adding some smart tech items such as a thermostat, a smart lock, automated messaging system, anything that helps you to kind of streamline your guest experience and reduce your workload. And a bonus tip in this area is you want to really look at the guest experience and try to make sure that you're providing the right information that guests need at the right time. This is not just overloading guests with every ounce of information in a single message, but rather you want to think about at each step in the process, what do guests need, and make sure that you have a system for addressing those needs. These are the things that will make you stand out above other hosts in the market, and these are the things that will help keep guests coming back year after year, month after month. Step 3 in the process is having the right strategy. Before your listing goes live, the right strategy helps to determine whether you get booked or whether or not your listing gets buried. Here are a few things to help you refine your strategy. You want to consider using dynamic tools like Wheelhouse or Price Lab or Beyond Pricing to automatically adjust your rates based on demand and seasonality and local events. You know, it's impossible for you to keep track of everything happening in your town, such as concerts and baseball games, basketball games, festivals, and things like that. So using dynamic pricing will keep track of all of those things and make sure that they're reflected in your price. So in areas and moments where you have higher demand, these pricing tools will adjust to account for that. These dynamic tools will make sure you are taking advantage of every opportunity to gain the maximum amount of revenue out of your property. And if you're just getting started, you want to set a competitive base price for your first 30 days that will help you build momentum and earn reviews. And it does mean that maybe your price is not the highest that it's going to be. You have to set a competitive price that will actually help guests take a chance on your listing to help you build reviews, which will ultimately allow you to be able to increase the price in the future. You also want to create urgency with last minute discount to help you fill open spots on your calendar. Next, you want to optimize your calendar by opening up at least 3 months in advance and also block off unattractive dates. These are possibly like one night stays that could actually impact the flow of your property and leading you to actually lose money because guests are not able to book the dates that are actually your highest revenue dates. A little bit more on price. You want to avoid some of these common mistakes such as setting your price once and forgetting it. Folks often talk about Airbnb as passive income, and there are ways to make aspects of your Airbnb portfolio passive, but setting your prices and forgetting it is something that will cause you to lose revenue. You want to check in periodically to make sure that there are no tweaks that are needed on the price to make sure that you're leveraging and maximizing the maximum amount of revenue that you can get from your listings. Smart pricing is great. It helps you save tons of time. It also helps you to improve your revenue, but you still have to check in periodically to make sure that there are no manual changes that are needed. Having the right strategy is great. Having the right pricing is essential, but these next 2 steps will help you outperform 80% of the hosts in your market. And that leads me to step 4, which is making sure that you're providing a high level of service to your guests. This means building the right systems that make guests feel cared for at every step of their process, from the very first message that they send you to when they check into your listing and also when they're checking out. And here are a few ways that you can actually improve your service. You want to have automated messaging. Automated messaging helps you to provide timely information to guests and allows you to get them the information that they're seeking at the right time. These messages are prepared in advance, and so you have the luxury and the opportunity to make these as clean, as tight, and as streamlined as possible. Now, you also want to have a simple, well-designed house manual. These are things that actually provide many of the details that guests will want, such as recommendations for the local area, what they need to do on checkout, your house rules, other essential information that guests will need while they're staying at your property. You can design this on Canva. You can also use tools like Google Doc and make it accessible with just a link that allows you to be able to text it out to guests in advance. You also want to try to level up your guest experience by including a small surprise. This could be something as simple as a handwritten note, or it could be a nice little gift basket. So if, let's say, you're in a town that produces like a specialty item like popcorn or coffee or any other specialty foods, you can try to put together a nice little basket that helps provide a welcome surprise to guests at the moment that they check in. In fact, y'all, the research shows that giving guests a surprise item like this really does help to improve your 5-star reviews. This is a small investment that will pay off in the long run. Now, here are a few mistakes that you'll want to avoid. You want to make sure that guests are getting what they need. Coming to a property is not something where a guest is going to try to figure it out. You also want to make sure that your communication is consistent. So if you're someone that responds quickly to messages, you want to make sure that you're not having too much time pass by before responding to a guest message, because these guests have lots of other choices on the market. And if you're not responding to their messages or questions that they have about your property, they're simply just going to move on. You also want to make sure that your check-in process is very simple. In fact, guests may be coming sometimes late into the night. Sometimes they're coming in bad weather. The last thing that a guest want to do is fumble around and trying to find details to get into the property or to find the entrance to your property. So you want to make sure this is very simple and easy for guests to gain access to the property and get settled in upon arrival. An additional thing to note that a guest 5-star stay, it starts long before they arrive at your property. It actually starts at the very first time they look at your listing, search to the photos, read the description, to the very first message that they send to you. All the other things that the guests will see and encounter and interact with to your listing will impact ultimately the reviews that they send you. And these are things that you can address by making sure that your messages are tight, that your listing looks solid on Airbnb or the other platform that you're on. You also want to make sure that those photos tell a very strong story about your property and help set the expectation of what guests will see upon their arrival at your listing. Now, once you get those first steps dialed in, you may be at a stage where you think about growing your listings. And that is where step 5 comes in, scaling your property and potentially building the level of revenue that you're able to get from your short-term rental portfolio. So before adding a new property, you want to make sure that you have the right systems in place. You want to have your automated messaging system in place. You want to have a pricing software in place to make sure that you're not missing out on potential revenue. You also need to have a way that cleaners are able to get into your property, reset that listing, and get it turned over and ready for new guests. Having these systems in place allows you to be able to add a new property without also increasing your workload. So now that you've gotten the first 5 steps to launching an Airbnb 2025, you have the essential information and now it's time to take action. So if you're serious about launching a profitable Airbnb this year, you want to download the setup guide below. It's the shortcut we wish we had when we were getting started. This is going to save you tons of time and tons of money. And if you want to avoid some of the common mistakes that new hosts make, watch this next video, because when you combine the setup strategies from this video with those insights, you'll be ahead of 90% of the other hosts in your market.